We are live in 5, 4, 3, 2. We're live.
And welcome to the Trep Show, where we're helping entrepreneurs build the next billion-dollar business. We want to support your journey, and we want to see more Treps win rather than lose. How many people can you count that are Treps and failed to build a business from their idea? It's shocking if you count them all up. And that's why we're here. I'm your host, Gary-Dobbs, and my co-host, Thaddeus Archibald. And we're bringing to you live on Friday, the 24th of November in 2017, resources to help you become the next billion-dollar business. We could be out shopping right now on this Black Friday, but we're here spending time for you. Spending time and spending money just for you, so that you can build the assets and not liabilities. Let's get started and make progress. So Thaddeus, how you doing today, man?
Doing all right. Hanging in there. It's a good day. I didn't even go out
right in after my intro hook right there.
Yeah. That's new. We're just spicing it up. We're adding to it. We're trying to make it better.
Yeah.
Definitely trying to get the vocals and everything done right. So we're stepping up the game, man. For sure. So that's a good thing. It's a good move. It's a good way. And I don't know. How was your holidays?
Mine was good. I think I spent more time not working than I would have liked to, but it was good. I got to see family and stuff, so it was a pretty relaxed, chill day.
Yeah.
There were some times when I felt like, there was something I wanted to do. I wanted to work on it with my business, but just wasn't in the time or place for it.
Yeah, I know. I got a call, and I just knew, I'm with people right now, so I can't just be on my phone talking and doing business. I mean, that's the thing, it's good that happens because it does allow us to remember we're still human beings. And as human beings, as entrepreneurs, you can get so wrapped up into where you want to go and all the things you want to do and all the great things you want to do. And you forget that, wait a second, I'm a person, I need sleep, I need food, I need this sense of community around me. And I think that it's a good thing to, every once in a while, at least have people around you that will remind you. Sometimes people will remind you in a harsh way, their family, or sometimes people just give you a little gentle nudge, like, hey, I know that you've got big plans and you're trying to go and do big things, but don't forget, you are still a human being. You haven't got it there yet. And sometimes it's annoying when people try to do that to you because you know where you're trying to go. And I just want to point that out. Don't let that, if there's anybody out there listening and somebody's telling them, oh, you're such a dreamer and you're such a this and you're such a that, just, understand that they're trying to keep you centered and grounded to where you don't go so far out there to where you just are unrealistic. Because I do believe that happens with entrepreneurs. And it's kind of like a good segue into you just talking about really what you're trying to say and really just introducing this idea of the difference between, the two ideas.
Yeah. Yeah. You're saying the two ideas, the difference between running a business and having a job?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I look at it thinking, because you think about with people that are out, right? Where could every person, no matter who you are, what you do, benefit from thinking like an entrepreneur? I feel like the one key aspect that any person could think of is to focus on creating assets, focus on owning assets, right? So now, I think if you shift your mindset a bit like that, because to me an asset would be something that's going to give me a return on my investment, right? And then if we could have a whole show actually probably just talking about all the different types of assets, all the different types of ways you can get a return on your investment, right? But so you don't even have to be a business owner to think about accumulating assets. You just have to think about spending your time and spending your money wisely. So I was looking at it from the perspective, I'm thinking, okay, well, let's look at the case, for example, you've got a salesperson and you've got a business owner. And imagine the salesperson lifestyle. They can go travel when they want to. They've got nice things. So the ordinary problems that most people have, they don't have that. They've got access to money. Now imagine the business owner, though, that has also been in business for 30 years, but they've been running multiple businesses, and they also live a prosperous life. And the business owner is always focusing on valuable assets. So I feel like it's really key and important. I would think this is probably one of the determining factors that separates a billionaire from a person that's not a billionaire, because they're always looking at assets and what they can accumulate and what's going to help them, right? And if you're going to build a business and you're thinking about starting something, then shouldn't you be thinking in terms of assets with your business? Because I know a lot of business owners out there, and I'd be an interesting study to find out if someone like Forrester or some company could do a research on small businesses across America, all of them, how many of them actually own assets? Because I know that there's a lot of small businesses that it's still a job. Even though they own the business, it's still a job. So, for example, lots of people that come to this country and maybe they have difficulty and they're getting status, and so they don't have all the benefits and abilities as a U.S. paying tax citizen. But if they come over and they come over with money, they can buy a job rather than having to pass employment laws to get a job, right? So if they, let's say, lived in another country, sold their house, sold everything they had, took everything that they had. Let's say they had $100,000. They show up here, they want to create a life for their family. And they're like, well, what can I do because I'm limited? A lot of them go and buy a job. So they might go buy a liquor store. And now they own a liquor store, so they own a business. But if it's just them and the business is only generating a certain amount of revenue each month, right? And they're trying to provide for the family. So they do want to take majority of that profit for themselves as an income, because who knows how early they can be profitable. So, but you could start seeing like how this situation would play out. Like if a person can buy a job and own a business like that, well, they've still got to think about the systems and procedures on running their business to effectively make it a business, and where they can start hiring people and they can start focusing on the next one and the next one and the next one, right? That's where the owner is going to really start making their money, is once they've figured out a business and they figured out something that works, they know how to sell in the market that they operate in, and they can make good money. Now they understand where they can go in the next market and the next market and the one after that. So it is really like an asset-driven strategy. Like you're thinking about these systems and procedures that's running your business and how you're going to operate it. And so a lot of that work initially and early on is perfecting the system that's going to generate that experience for your customers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what got me to thinking about that was, well, that would be the major difference between a business owner and like a salesperson. Because you ever met most salespeople? A lot of them, especially the good ones, they feel like they can't be paid enough. Right?
Yeah, I have nothing against that philosophy, because I know that if you're good at what you're doing, you're going to definitely be able to take it to that next level, and you're going to be able to see that, that result. When I did sales, that was my first job after I graduated college. I worked in sales, and I was good at it. And I was so good at it that they wanted to hire me to teach other people how to do it. And this is me at 20, maybe 21. And imagine, I had already made a lot of money from music at that time. Had already made a lot of money. But as you can see, the kind of person I am is I I always going to continue to work. I'm not going to stop working. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I was already doing good from then, and I got good at if you're good at selling, you're good at selling, and you're going to want other people to pay you for that because you know how hard it is. Like, just imagine, um, there's people out there who cannot go up and talk to a woman. They don't have it in them. They don't have it at all. Like, there's
Yeah.
people out there, or men and women, they cannot talk to the opposite gender. It's impossible for them to do that. They get froze up, and that person can literally throw themselves, like give you every human indicator of body language and things like that, but they will not make a move. So that's a difficulty for a lot of people out there. Now, there's people out there that can just go up and talk to people. Now imagine if you didn't have the ability to go up and talk to somebody, and then somebody else could do it at a very high close rate, then when somebody comes up to you and it asks you like, "Hey, can you go and do this on my behalf?" and you're at 90%, 80%, just way above. Like where I worked at, there's this thing called parity, and you had to be above parity, and you only got paid. So I worked straight commission, and you're working straight commission. Then on top of that, you got to sell an additional thing on top of that, and you got to be at least 35% of the time selling those. And a lot of people were at zero for a year or something like that, and they would end up getting fired. But I was at 79% on parity. That means that I would sell somebody something for like $15,000, and then I would sell an additional $1,200 insurance policy or protection or something like that on top of that at an extremely high rate, way higher than other people. But I just knew how to explain the usefulness and the value of having that but the way that you explain if, and I feel like the whole thing, this is another good thing, another sales tip for anybody out there listening. Like, here's a good sales tip. When you're trying to get that extra, whatever it is you're trying to sell, you're trying to get that extra, whatever it is, and it's going to cost more. But at the same time, it's unnecessary if nothing happens. But it's always good to have that assurance. How do you explain that to somebody? How do you look at somebody in the face and say, "Hey, this right here computer costs $1,200 or $2,000. And if something happens with your computer, then here's this right here to protect you." So how do you take that space in between and be like, well, you're spending $2,000 on a really good computer, there should be nothing wrong with it. How can you say that, but at the same time tell them like, hey, you also need to buy this right here? How do you successfully? I just want to ask you first, see what you would say in this situation.
Well, okay, so I got a bit of an echo in the back. Do you have the show playing on in the background?
Nope.
So what I would do is I would think, okay, well, if this is like a $2,000 computer, okay, so this is seen as expensive. What's not expensive? Like, what do most people think of spending on a computer? Like, let's just say it's something entirely something different. It's cost less money. I know for a fact that more expensive computer is going to have more functionality and going to have something else to it that makes it so expensive. So I'm going to focus on that difference. Like, this is the difference. This is what you get when you buy this product, like the more expensive one. Right?
Hello?
And on top of it, yep.
Yeah, I heard a long pause, and I was like, you said you were hearing an echo, and I was making sure the echo wasn't there.
Okay. And so you imagine there's going to be some huge value, something different that computer has that would justify it being costing $2,000, right? Because for me as a salesperson, I'm going to sell something. I know I'm picking a product and I'm selling things that I know are valuable. So I'm only selling them because I know that these things are worth what we're charging.
Yeah.
So to me, there's no question in buying this thing. Like it's not expensive. It's worth it's worth what's being asked. Because if you look at like, you know, how Tesla just came up with a new Roadster, right?
Yeah, he came
It
with
just
the roadster and he came up with the semi truck. I
oh, the
posted
semi
that.
truck. Okay.
I posted
Well,
that on Facebook.
you look at the Roadster, and that one's cost $200,000, right? You can compare that to probably a Rolls Royce or a Bentley that would cost between 200 250. I think is pretty close, fair number to where you can get a Rolls Royce. So what would be the difference of buying like the Tesla and buying the other one? I mean, see, like with the Rolls Royce, they only make limited numbers of them and they're handmade, right? Well, the Tesla, it's a comparable price, but it's an entirely different type of vehicle. It's a sports car. It's electric. It goes faster than any other car. They're saying any other car that's on Earth right now at 1.9 seconds to go to 0 to 60.
That's crazy.
So you just look at all the benefits that you're getting with this item that nothing else can provide. Obviously, if you're going to look at features and benefits, it's all about the feature and benefits. Like that's how Apple sold so many products for so long because they're innovators. They're true innovators. Like Tesla, also a true innovator. They're not just copying what they see in the market and making their own version of it and selling it. Like Tesla is actually pushing the boundaries and moving beyond what's available in the market. Apple did it for so long when Steve Jobs was there, and they're making these products that were unlike anything else available. So there was no comparison. So it was all about, look at this, we've got this technology, you could do that. It was all about, I mean, that's where it was easy to sell the features and benefits, but that's where I think like a company like Apple and other ones, like how it's so much easier for a salesperson to sell it because they almost don't need to sell it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because the people have bought in to the brand of Apple, and they bought into the fact that, dude, this company makes products that are beyond, they're not even available on the market from other companies. So I'm getting something from the future. And so for someone like me, where when I have the extra money to spend on stuff, I like to have products that are with brand new technologies and something completely different than it's available. And there's a lot of people out there too that love having cool, fancy, cool new products that
That's
do
the
something that
reason why,
nothing
yeah.
else.
I mean, I'm the same way, man. But the thing about it is to tie it in with the difference between being a business owner and having a job and the whole fact of like selling something on top of something. Selling something to somebody saying like, hey, this is the best money you can buy. You can't make a mistake, but also you need to buy this right here if a mistake happens. And I think a lot of the times in business, when you're running your business, I mean, you gave a really good example a long time ago. We were talking about, hey, you got people out there who can have it turnkey style. So when they leave, they got the system in place. Guess what? It's still going to work. And then you got people out there who guys are, you know, doing everything by themselves, not delegating, not getting people to do certain things, taking on all the tasks. So when you leave, guess what? The money leaves too because nobody knows what to do. So, I mean, but ultimately that kind of sums down what you're saying. But then there's this little extra dimension in between that. And it's you already doing this. Why do I need to do this as well? Why do I need the insurance? Why do I need to consider what if? And the best, and the thing that you have to do in these kind of situations is you create this seamless transition. And I think the best way that I can explain that is just like, imagine, like me right now, I'm doing drywall for a basement right now. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And you know, when you put the drywalls up, there's a space in between the drywalls, right? In between, there's like a little space there, and you take the mud, the drywall mud, and you put it down on there. And then the goal is to make it like there is no in between. Like it was just one big wall. It's a goal to make it appear like, well, why not have this added benefit? Because something could happen. Why is this necessary to add this doubt of the quality of a product? You know what I'm saying? And with a drywall, you know, when you do it correctly, you mud it down and you sand it, and when you paint it, you really can't tell when a drywall is connected and when a drywall is just extra drywall, because you made it a seamless, smooth transition. And I think what I did most efficiently was explaining like the total cost. This is how you can get everything included. And I wouldn't necessarily say that, oh, this is going to mess up. But I would say, hey, there's added benefits on top of buying this product in the first place. So why not have this right here for future things that can happen? And I would never use negative words to negate, or negative words that would damage the credibility of how high I lifted up this product in the first place. And I feel like in business, when you're delegating and you're doing things, and you want to make that transition between just running a business and being a person who has a job that wakes up and does something, and you exchange your time for a lower monetary value than having a job where you exchange your time for more that you can get, you know what I'm saying, like running the business, because the time that you're putting into it, you're delegating that time down. So there's ladders and there's different tiers of levels of things are getting done. So you can be running a multi-billion-dollar business, you know what I'm saying? And you can be doing really good. You can be sitting high and mighty, or you can just be that guy who's in the factory. Nothing wrong with the factory working, because there's people that need to do that. Those are jobs. It's necessary. But there's some people who aspire to do that. That's all they want to do. That's how much they want to focus on it. They don't live to work. They just do that so they can have a little money to do what they got to do in the day. And there's other people like you and I and other people out there, entrepreneurs, hopefully the group of people that we're trying to talk to. And I hope I'm not talking too fast, because sometimes I get to rambling all the other stuff. But what I'm basically trying to say is Tampa, Florida is really awesome. Just got to give that a nice shout out. And another thing I had to say was we got to focus on the idea of delegation. I think that's the biggest key. And that what separates people who have a job who wants to go up in the ladder. If you're just working a job and you want to go up, how do you, when you have no authority and no anything, right, at all, you're just another cog spinning. How do you get other people to work harder because you are there? How do you separate yourself? And I think that's some of the juice that all entrepreneurs need to possess, and be able to get that, and be able to get people around them to work harder, to get the leadership and whoever it is around them to notice, like, hey, when Gary is not around, or when Thaddeus is not around, it doesn't seem like things are happening. Why are things slowing down? So you want people to understand the benefit, but at the same time, you want to keep that benefit into the position where, hey, I don't really need you, but I'm working because I'm trying to grow. And I feel like in entrepreneurial endeavors and in business and in all these different things, it's this big toss and tussle, this big push and pull of like these big authorities, like who is subservient and who is in control, that power dynamics. And whenever you can get into that little synthesis area where you're just right in between, where you can clearly see that you are valuable, but at the same time, the person who's in control or the person who's subservient to you also has a little bit of power, and you could not function without that. It's those moments and times where you can really understand the worth, and to give a really like stark and like point of view, just to hit onto this right here, because this is a big, huge thing. Is think about this whole thing about the sexual harassment. Think about that. Let's talk about what Harvey Weinstein and Louis C.K. and the whatever Al Franken, all these guys out there is just popping up. These people are doing things. These are
Do
people
you
in
think that
positions.
guy Harvey like really messed things up? Because he founded that company, the Weinstein Company, and he's been kicked out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's a founder that like was end up kicked out of his own company. What do you think that like? Do you think that this guy had his values and his principles in place?
I don't know.
Like, I wonder what triggered that event, right? Like you're saying, it's interesting you like brought them up because you look at like the sexual harassment in companies and that becoming an issue. Man, like one thing didn't just come up in front of that guy's face. It was like a domino.
Yeah.
The dominoes came crashing on that guy. And it tore everything down for him. I don't know what's going on with him recently.
Yeah, it was a major factor. And what I want to say, the main reason why I even want to bring that person up, because think about this power dynamics. Think about these people in power. But then at the same time, these people in power need those people that they prey upon. Now think about those people that they prey upon, understanding that those people in power, if they understood how to use what they needed to, and they understand the synthesis, because think about Julia Roberts. She said that she was nothing like that ever happened to her. I believe there's people who understand that power dynamic. The person who's at the top, the person who's at the bottom. And they understand that to a level far beyond at a younger age. So these people who are in power, and I'm not gonna, like, I spent some time in, I guess, the modeling and doing ads and commercials and being on TV. So I did that. So I do have an understanding of what it was like. I remember one time I was doing this little runway thing, and there's this, I don't know, I'm not even going to say anything, but I'm a guy, and something awkward happened, and I just look at the person, and I was like, I could see all these women out there, the situation that they've been in, and, being a woman and not being as physically whatever to be able to defend yourself, and then at the same time wanting a role. But at the same time, I understood this right here. I'm necessary, and sometimes you're not replaceable. Sometimes you fit every description, and you just happen to fit whatever demographic or whatever you look like. You just happen to fit that, and there's not going to be anybody who meets what you are. You're like the perfect specimen.
Well, let's look at like that, like this role, what you're talking about as the job. So
yeah. And what I'm trying to say,
like how it relates to the business owner owning assets. And
what I'm trying to say is, there's people out there who understand the role of the servant, the person who is subservient. And if you know how to be that way, to where like, hey, you need me just as much as you have the power that you can use against me. And if you can be the first person to make that power play, to humble them, to let them know like, hey, I know what I could do before you could do it, to put you in a position where they will believe me no matter what I say. And those people that understand how to get in that position first, they always win. And that's where we're coming first. I mean, just think about, you see these big companies out there that just blew up. Like $2 billion companies like Amazon, Facebook, Bebo, all these big, huge companies out there. There was a position where they were weaker, and there was somebody out there who had way more authority and control over the situation. But they understood their value. They understood that, hey, you're not going to be able to make any steps, because what you really need to know, I'm not going to give you that information. What you really want to do, I'm not going to let you do that. And then I'm going to let you know that, hey, if you go too far, I'm going to move in this direction. And I'm always watching my back. I'm always, prepared to strike if I have to. And when people understand that you're on that level and you're sharp and you're cunning, and not in a negative way, but you just understand like, hey, I'm maneuvering properly through this right here. I'm not going to let nobody just get over on me or do me any kind of way. You get superstars. you get huge, successful, wildly successful business owners like Mark Cuban and the guy from Virgin Mobile. These guys, they knew when they had the opportunity and they took the opportunity. And I feel like you right now, you're in that position. You're in this little position right now, and like we're seeing opportunities around us. And I think what happens is when you're special and you're closer to something than somebody else is, there's this understanding that you have, like, man, I just need a little break. I need somebody who has control to give me just a little boost, just a little whatever, a little stamp, whatever it is. That's all I really need, because I'm already on that level in the first place. And I believe there's people out there who see that. They understand that people are there and they don't want people to surpass them. Mm-hmm. So you got to figure out a way to put yourself in this kind of humbled situation, but you don't give over the authority. You're just saying like, hey, I'm willing to humble myself to get to this point. And not in humbling yourself in some kind of way where you do some kind of sexual favor or anything like that. But the fact that you're like, hey, you are better off than I am. Acknowledging that somebody is further along than you are. And just letting go of the ego. And trying to be like, hey, I'm not there yet. You are. Let's work together. And that's that seamless transition, like I was trying to talk about. That's that smooth line between, well, why do I need to even work with you when I have all this money and I can just hire somebody else and I can just do that? And I'll be like, well, you can do all that, but they're not the same level as I am. They don't have that little bit of spark. And that's the uniqueness about things and situations. I don't know. Well, I'm trying to figure out what you're thinking about that and what you have to say and how you could add anything to that.
Well, I think I would think like in that instance, so if we put it between, let's say two people that are very similar, one's a salesperson, has a great job, makes a great income. The other person's a business owner, has multiple businesses and multiple streams of income, right? So I would look at it like that spark and that ability for someone to realize, like, when you come across something that you are like, wow, that's powerful, or I had not thought about it that way. The person that I want to focus on and engage with is the person that would recognize that opportunity and stop everything that they're doing and realize, you know what? As good as I am at my job, I'm a salesperson, I'm making great money, but there's a whole new world beyond this that I didn't think about. All this last 30 years, I have been working this job, doing great, making great money. And I could have started multiple businesses and have multiple streams of income. So now my lifestyle and now the fortune, and the assets of my family is not just dependent on one of those streams of income. And I feel like that is a really valuable thing for anybody in this day and age to grasp, because since software technologies have hit mainstream and really gotten bigger and bigger, it's just changed the dynamics of work. And so when the internet came out, it allowed a lot of people to get online and access a market of people anywhere in the world, because it's a world wide web. So imagine like you're a business owner for 30 years and you had this store, and let's say you had 3 stores and you were in 3 different cities. So your market, typically, the average marketer is going to say, okay, let's market to the zip code that your business is in, or within 5 miles radius of your business. You take that business owner that has 3 businesses, marketing to just those people within 5 miles of each store, and then you say, oh, hey, here's a thing called the internet. That's the business you have, you can now put online, and you're not limited by geography. What are you going to do about it? See, and I feel like the person that would just realize, like, and actually visualize that, or whatever they need to do to register it in their brain, and think, wait a minute, all I got to do is put together a service or a product and put it on the web, and I could sell to anybody in the world. Nobody's off limit. Geography does not restrain me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I would look at like the person that's really trying to think like, wait, you know, like they recognize opportunity, they recognize value.
And well, what do you think? I got something to say to contest that, just for the sake of the show.
Uh-huh.
This global mindset, when you say globally, where geography doesn't separate you. Right. So that's almost kind of like this right here. It's kind of like what could be the downfall of capitalism in America. Because, and not to make this a political thing, but if you think about it, man, if you're not willing to find a way to invest into your local area, because you see the opportunity over in Tanzania or Sudan, some other place like that, some other crazy place that for some reason you have a you melted plastic down and you made it in the shape of a whatever, and for some reason people over there are just spending a lot of money over there, and you find that out. So you say, hey, I'm gonna go over there and blah blah blah, I'm gonna make all the money. So you make all this money and you do all this right here, and then you say, whoa, wait a second, I found out that over here in the next country next to that, I can do this and I can do that. And you're not. Mm-hmm. And then you stop remembering that you are still in one area. You're in America. You are in this country. Okay. And you're looking at your global neighbor than your local neighbor. Mm-hmm. And I think the problem with that is when you become too global, you forget that you have to be able to reach a local area first. And I think, it's a little bit harder because people over here think a certain kind of way about products and things. You can have
multiple streams of income. You don't have to stop the one thing you're doing. So if you're serving the local businesses and creating a local stream from those the neighborhoods around your business, because like if you're an auto repair shop, obviously you repair cars, so you're not going to sell repair and car service over the internet because you need people to bring their car in. And it's usually going to be people that live close to you because you have to put yourself in the position of the customer. And the customer is going to be like, well, I live here, I work there, so I'm going to find a repair shop that I trust and value within this space, and that's convenient to me. So it's got to be close to my house or close to my work, so they can work on my car while I'm doing something else, and it'd be less of an inconvenience to me. The more convenience a business can offer, the better, right? Mm-hmm. But that business owner, they had 3 different repair shops in 3 different cities. They could think, wow, now I have the internet. What? Since I'm in the car repair business and I have access to parts, and I have a good source of parts, and I can get pricing on products really, really, really cheap. Who could I sell to on the internet? I could create another business that's related to what I do now, but I could take some popular part, something that I'm selling that people buy often, that people are constantly searching for and looking for, so they can create that additional business and have a multiple stream of income.
You have to admit this right here, man. I'm sorry to interrupt. You have to admit this. Yep. Once you start going globally, you stop being locally, because you start noticing that the global trend is way more lucrative. So you start focusing more in that global environment instead of your local.
But it doesn't mean you have to let go of the other aspects.
Those are just the facts, though, man. Just look at all the market research, man. Once you find an in, like over in Australia or South Africa, wherever, Angola, wherever place you can find it, and you see that you're successful at it and there's real money over there, then you start investing your time and your money. I mean, that's why there's so much money outside of the United States. Mm-hmm. That's why there's so much outside, because they understand, like, wow, people in America, number one, their jobs are going down. They're not the middle, whatever it is, the middle America, middle income, whatever those kind of people are, they are going down. It's slowly going down. So what are you going to do? You're going to find another vacuum, and you're going to start trying to fill that one because you sucked everything out of here. And then, like, the American values is different. Really. It's
Not
like,
really, because you gotta leave the complexity of the purchase open. Like as much as you know your customer, you might know them well for a while, but you're not going to know them well forever because their life is going to change and their lifestyle is going to change in some other way, shape, or form by association. So it could be with their family because someone got married. It could be because their job changed, so they go to a different location. Lots of other factors that are extenuating beyond your control that are going to change their buyer behavior.
I
See, so
mean,
like
yeah, I agree with
markets
that point.
change,
I agree
markets
with that point.
change all the time.
They change all the time.
Yeah,
However, the economy, the health of the economy is in this
yeah,
wave. And if the economy
yeah,
is on a downward curve, which looks like in America, right? There's some people,
yeah.
there's spikes, there's some millionaires, some billionaires here and there, and there's
So do you
spikes.
think the overall
Honestly,
um,
me personally,
position of Americans in the United States is going down? Do you feel like people are becoming overwhelmed by technology and the shift of work and what it means? And do you feel like they're losing their power?
yeah, I do.
They're losing the ability to make more money?
Yeah. I believe that they're going globally now.
Why is that?
It's not American anymore. It's
But who's
global.
going? Who's going?
Just
The
think
company?
about it, man. We were discussing this before. How many monthly active users are on Facebook? Do you think
Uh,
there's only Americans on Facebook?
no, of course not. No, it's global.
That's my you just I'm just proving my point. When you said global, I'm just proving the point. It's like people know, man, like the next wave is a global wave. And the country
Yeah,
that can give you the most, or the countries that you can manipulate to align with whatever global effort that you have, you're going to be
yeah,
put in that next position. I mean, me personally, I'm trying to go for the global money.
yeah.
I'm understanding. I've
Well,
been
look at
telling
it
you
this
that.
way. Let's
I've
say
been
you
trying
have
to
a
go for
job.
that. Like, and I feel
Let's say you
like,
have a
hey,
job, and let's say you do like an amount of work. Like each day you do an amount of work. Each week you produce an amount of work. If you could do the same amount of work and make 2x, 4x, 10x amount of money, what would you do? Would you continue to do what you're doing now, or would you choose to do it on a 2x, 10x level?
I'm I'm with you. I was just pointing out, like, that's the downfall of globalism.
Okay.
It eradicates localism. That's what happens, and that's how you have your slums. That's how you like. I mean,
But
I've
you're
been to
still
some
going to have
places,
people
man.
that buy local, right? You're still going to have people that buy things locally.
Think about it, man.
What?
When I was picturing the idea of like the 1,000 items, when I was talking to these guys at Amazon, like when I was doing things like that, and then because we're live, I'm not gonna go into too much detail, but when I was doing that, and then I suddenly see they got the Amazon Fresh where they can deliver stuff in 30 minutes or less. Do you think that your grocery store is going to be the same? Do you think that the way that you interact with purchasing your food is going to be the same? Do you think that's going to be what is local anymore when you have the internet? Because you just said it in your description, like, oh, I want somebody that they want to go and ask, their geography is no limit. And
Mm-hmm.
that is where it goes. That's where it leads. And me, I'm
Which is,
embracing that.
you got to admit
I'm
that,
not
like,
saying any.
the
I'm saying like,
barrier
hey, it
to
sucks for the
is
little
getting
guy,
more people access to more people and more
but
ability to make
it
money.
sucks for, yeah. I mean, if you say it that way, it sounds flattering and nice and good. But there's people
Yeah.
out there who are going to be left behind, and they're going to suffer. And those are the kind of people that are going to be the problem. They're going to be the thorn in the side of
Okay.
progress. And that's the reason why, like I'm American and I'm proud to be American, and I'm wishing the best for America. But if we don't figure out a way to sustain the kind of global growth that we're embarking upon, it's not going to be that good for the American people. It's just not going to be. It's just like, hey, it's a sad truth, and I'm not saying it like, oh, like I'm gonna stop trying to go for my global efforts because that would be foolish of me. I feel like we're right now in a position where, I mean, we got people from all around the world listening to our podcast. You know what I'm saying? And we're just really trying to figure out, okay, which people are listening most, say. You know what I'm saying? Because я понимаю мои по-русски. About the Russian people, I can. It doesn't matter. Like, konuşmak Türkçe, I can speak Turkish, I can speak Italian, I can speak Portuguese. Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, if I can, whoever is listening, whoever is willing to take these trip ideas and go with them, you know what? I'm gonna go there with them, because I feel like the market that we're trying to get is the innovators and the hopers and the dreamers, and I feel like that's everywhere. That's locally. And if locally happens to be globally, then guess what?
Well, it is global, yeah.
You know what I mean?
The trap show could become the new religion. You know, the local organization that operates globally. Because if you look at a church, that's something that it's very heavy on community and locale and the people in that location, but it also empowers them to operate globally.
Yeah. I mean, I understand, man, but I just felt like I had to say
the prep show could become an organization that operated like that.
But would it be a global organization or would it be an American organization?
It'd be both, because you could have like a company that was founded in America. Man. Yeah, you could have a company that was founded in America, and everybody's going to see it as American, but then the company would adapt.
I think it would be an American company with global reach, but I wouldn't say it would be a global company. I couldn't say that it's both. It starts off as a global company.
Be one or the other.
Yeah. It can be a global country, like Payoneer. I don't know if you heard about that, but it's like a global, for people like me who have like multiple different currencies, like banks in different countries. It's just a good way for me to get paid without having to deal with all this little tariff and Forex exchange rates. It makes it a little bit more smoother and things like that. But ultimately, I think that, globalization is a good thing, because it's connecting people, it's really getting rid of all these things, or these things called titles, and I feel like when we get into the business of running a business and being a player or a person who just has a job, and you start merging those lines together, and you have like these, these offices where there's really no boss's office and everybody can be touched and everybody's understanding this a big open, like, hey, we're just like a super
The dynamic of work has changed. The dynamic of work has changed already. We've seen software companies introduce that. There's lots of companies that are remote, right? Like more and more employees are remote workers. Mm-hmm. So I feel like the internet and the new technologies, and if people would accept them and think about like how they can take advantage of it, and think about it optimistically, they could really, really benefit and improve their life in ways.
But technology costs money.
Before.
It's like
not so much, not because of the internet. If you're talking about internet software,
yeah, but having the tools and the hardware
is way smaller than anything else you've ever had prior to.
Having the tools and the hardware to use the internet is a complete out-of-pocket cost. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
Like, maybe somebody's out there and they get like an iPhone 5 or iPhone 6. You can do a lot with that.
You know some people that can get it for zero out of pocket?
Who?
On the Obama phone.
You can get an iPhone.
Phone.
You can get
People can get a smartphone with internet access to applications for no money. Government's paying the bill.
It makes me so angry to hear that you said that. I'm super mad about that. So
and I'm not like saying I'm for or against it. I'm just saying
I'm 100% against it, man.
I've met people that were homeless,
I feel like,
jobless.
why do you need a phone if you can't afford to buy one?
Yeah. It's interesting. To me, it's interesting because it kind of brings up the question of necessity.
Yeah.
And what's a
That's a
standard of
luxury,
living?
man.
What's a standard of living that I sort of feel like for entrepreneurship and like what we want to do for trips around the world is the one thing I love about the United States that I have not heard been described in other countries anywhere is the spirit of entrepreneurship is to raise the standards for everyone. So one thing I've learned from a lot of software techs is they do really try, like altruistically try to improve the lives of everyone that touches their product. That's why it seems like so funny when you hear about these founders like Uber talk about their company or other ones. It's become a running joke, like where they make fun of software entrepreneurs because they all say that they want to create a product that changes the world, right? Mm-hmm. And so it can become pretty funny after a while because everybody's doing it. You're like, okay, now you got all these people changing the world. Like this is getting ridiculous.
It's getting redundant.
Totally redundant. But if you look at it, and if you look at the accessibility, that's what one of the things that has improved the most with internet software is it's expanded the reach of software and technologies, and
but it's also like, known
other things like hardware have lowered in cost because of improvements in technology.
But technology has also pushed people closer to you, further away. I mean, how many times you go out to eat at a restaurant?
Possibly.
Not possibly. Literally, it has, man. When you have to go to a restaurant and then somebody has to tell you to put your phone away, or you got to do phones up. And I don't know if you ever played that game where you have the...
I played that game. You know what, though? That's more pressure on you to become more interesting. I was just sitting with family yesterday at Thanksgiving, and I was noticing, hey, wait a minute. Almost everybody in this room is sitting there looking at their phone, doing something.
Exactly. That's the point that I'm trying to make. And you're trying to say technology is good for us. Yeah, it keeps everybody close. Like I said, studies show that people are more... I'm not interesting to any of these people, so they're looking at their phone. So I'll just find something else that's more interesting to me. Yeah, and is that a good thing? Because that lets you know that you... It's like, that's the point I'm trying... Hold on, man. I gotta say this, man. Because this right here kind of hits the nail on the head of what I was trying to say. Like, the point that I've been trying to make the whole time is like, the fact of globalization makes it where you care more about a person who's 5,000 miles away because that person shows some like or comment or whatever interest in what you're doing than the person next to you. Because a lot of people are unwilling to go the distance and create a true connection, a word for word or body language and things like that. It's such a hard thing to do. I mean, like, in me, I'm not even like, if I, like, the other day, I was with my girlfriend and I was eating at her house for her, just like, I go around to everybody's house and, eat at their place for, Thanksgiving. And then we're watching like Christmas movies or something like that. And I wasn't like messaging anybody or anything like that, but there's a game on my phone that I like. It's called True Skate. And I was just playing that game. It's like, oh, why don't you just watch a movie like everybody else? I was like, I'm not really interested in a movie, and I can just do this right here. But I could see that I was the only person doing something like that. But I think I wasn't. But at the same time, I felt like, well, I did notice what I was doing. I did notice that I was getting into my phone instead of being around the environment. And that is the issue with globalization. That is the issue with being so connected to somebody over in New Zealand or China or something like that.
Maybe it's like human consciousness is evolving. Where
I feel
you're like reaching another state. Like, think about what used to be, and people only connected with people locally. And then once more, like, people became more interconnected, like where geography was less and less and less of an issue. It becomes to say like the collective consciousness is grown. Yeah. Because you can connect with somebody else at a different time zone in a different spot around the world. I mean, imagine that. That wasn't something people imagined even 30 years ago. I think not even in the 80s, because software and all that technology has really started to see innovation and see improvements in the 70s.
I mean,
even though there was some of it available before, but it was just available to like governments and larger body organizations that can afford the cost. Right?
I just want to say this right here. I just want to be a pioneer in local globalization, to where people understand that there's somebody that lives next to you, that there's somebody sitting in a restaurant at a table eating with you. And sometimes it's not etiquette, it's just human nature. Like, if you don't show babies love and care, they're going to not socially develop properly. Mm-hmm. That's just a fact. And we're getting to the situation where we are around other human beings and we're not showing any emotion. We're using emojis and words to describe ourselves, and we're lacking emotion. We're becoming zombies. We're becoming automatons.
So do you think the world is really becoming like the Matrix?
No, I've never seen the movie The Matrix, so.
Oh, you gotta watch that, man.
I mean, I'm not really big on watching movies and things like that.
It's a mind shift, man. To really look at the concept and the analogies that they play out in that movie.
I don't know, man. It's like movies and other people's ideas and thoughts don't really hold my attention. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, I'd rather go and look at somebody or have somebody go to a speech or something like that, or be at a rally of other people out there who are just talking about, you know what? I came from the trenches, man. I came from nothing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I was shoveling crap and then all of a sudden, look where I'm at right now. I'm talking to you guys, and I'm in a 3-piece suit with some Gucci shoes on. That's what's up. I like listening to those kind of people, because those people they can say something impactful. They can shine me something on life that I wasn't paying attention to, and then all of a sudden I see it, and then I start making that move towards that direction, and I start making those changes in my life, and I start winning. If I watch whatever that movie Matrix, whatever that's what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna be like, oh, this is a cool movie, it's a crazy idea. It's all fake. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I look at it like.
But it gets you to open up your mind to think about what you've been lied about your entire life. So the one thing I got from it is the movie is to unlearn lies that you've been taught, right? And I think everybody can relate to this. If every person listening to this show, no matter who they were to just say, like, when I grew up and the things my parents taught me, was everything true? When I was in school and I was being taught things that were supposed to be good for my development, is it all true? And you start finding, when you start looking at it, there's a lot of mistakes. There's a lot of actual errors in a lot of things. So then you start to I would start to question the things like, well, who created this nonsense? Like, who decided that I even needed to learn these things to develop myself? So when I went through kindergarten through 12th grade, who decided that this was the curriculum that every person that goes through the education system in the United States needs to learn this? Because it hasn't changed in a long time. And if you look at it and you think about it, nowadays is majority of the smart people that have been able to create an independent lifestyle at no matter what age, even kids that are in school, was when they began to question that, and they started to understand that what was best for them was not necessarily being given to them and not available to them. So they really had to think outside the box. They had to think for themselves. And you could categorize these things. I could think about, like,
well, when you say was I lied to, what was done to help you to survive to that point where you could realize, okay, I'm mature now and I understand that, I had to be told and taught things this way because I would not understand it, because I would be unwilling to receive it in either kind of way. Like it's just like me trying to tell a little kid astrophysics at two
Yeah.
years old and really trying to get them to understand the concept. Maybe there's people out there that may understand it. They may have a grasp in a direction, but you're not going to be able to give somebody that kind of information at that young of an age without finding out a way where you can relate it to their level of maturity. And I feel like a lot of people don't understand that people talk to you and explain things to you and communicate with you based on your understanding of whatever context it is. Like I work with people who have intellectual disabilities, and I learned that sometimes there's some things that you can explain to them just like me and you, like, oh, that's a red light. Okay, we both can see it's a red light. But then the consequence of running a red light, I may have to explain that to them different than I would explain to somebody who does not have those same disabilities. And I feel like, yeah, you're right. You can technically say you were lied to about certain things, but are you saying that because you're mature, or are you saying that because you understood from that time? You understood the difference between that. And I think a lot of people are unwilling to make that differentiation, that distinction, like, oh, I wasn't mature, so maybe that's the way I heard it, or maybe that's the way I understood it. And now I can say, oh, it was this way.
Well, you know, one thing anybody can say, no matter where they're from, is most of the things we're being told what to do were rules created by people that were no smarter than you.
Mm-hmm. And to add on top of that, and I hate to put this little sad Debbie Downer thing here, but they didn't choose to live. And then somebody else who didn't choose to live decided, hey, I know you're going to die, and I know the world is messed up, but I'm going to give you life anyways so you can die. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just to add that in there. That's like, I think that's for me, that's a huge issue, man. But I'm here now. I'm going to continue.
What's the one thing that I can think of that most people don't value the same? And I think this is probably pretty synonymous as it should be the most valuable to everybody, but it's one of the few things that are most valued by most people.
I mean, the suspense is killing me.
What is it? It's one word. It's time. So if you look at the people that are really in control of their life, they're very happy with where they've gotten, where they have what they want. So we're talking to Treps, right? And we're talking about the next $1 billion business. These people, majority of them, understand that time is finite. So, and on top of it, you can't even depend on a statistic like what an insurance company would say was, what's the average expectancy of life for a woman and for a man, right? Like you can't even depend on that.
Yeah.
Because there's so many other factors that are going to dictate and could happen to you by circumstance that end your life a lot sooner or end your life, later. You just don't know. So the people that I've met and what I've found is that majority of them are very impatient when it comes to time. So you can't sit them in a room and waste their time with a bunch of nonsense because they feel no obligation to make you feel special and loved by whatever you're saying. If they disagree with what you're saying, they'll disagree with it. And they're not even going to waste their time sitting there, and listening to it because they understand they've already had some sort of experiences or knowledge and been taught something or just learned it on their own, whatever it was. They thought, you know what? Okay, this makes sense. I've come to this conclusion. This is a principle of mine, or here's something that I value, right? So like those people like that, and there's not a lot of people out there like that. There's very few that are like that take their life so seriously because they do realize that there are so much that you have to actually try to understand and grasp, but simplify it so that you can be able to have some sort of a model to live your life by. So you can come against anything and feel prepared for it and feel confident with it. And even accept your failures when you do make mistakes on something, that you can totally accept it. And it's not going to be something that, puts you in a dark state for a few years or a few months. Like, these people can move on from things really quickly. And I feel like I've met a lot of really smart people. So like when I was in real estate and I started that 3 years ago, when I was in training at this one company I went to, after about a year I had the license, this one guy came in. He was really smart and he was quick. He started talking about the topic, and then he started going right in. He's like, okay, so let's practice. Like, what does it mean to prospecting? And he started going right into dives on how he improves prospecting inside of his business. And he just went right into it, right? Like most people, when they go up and present, they are not willing to practice right in front of you. You know what I mean? Like
why?
They want to be showy. They want to sound like they're smart. They want you to create this image of them like, oh man, this person really knows everything they're talking about. But very few people, if they're going to come up with a subject, they're willing to practice it right in front of you, because they'll show you how much better they are at it than you. And so that's what this guy did in front of this group of about 75 realtors in my office. We were listening, and he was going through prospecting. He was like, okay, so let's go through a phone call. All right, we're going to talk about, you're going to lead gen and you're calling a homeowner, calling back a homeowner. They just contacted you on Zillow and they talked about wanting to sell their home in 3 to 6 months. What are you going to say? Right? So like he came up with a very specific situation and we started talking about on the fly. And he was like willing to practice it with anybody inside the room. And I liked it and I admired it because it showed me that like it made him, it proved to me that he was worthy of being up there speaking to 75 people. Today, I feel like with social media, it's almost the other way around. There's 75 people up on the stage and there's one person sitting down that really wants to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Like, think about what kind of a messed up situation is that? You go to a seminar to go learn something and you really want to learn. You find out you're the only one in the audience because everybody else thinks they know everything. And everyone's up on stage.
I know.
And
that's what I think.
Like
I mean, like, honestly, man,
we've already talked about this. The story is really playing out.
That's what I'm saying. You're right, man. We talked about this so much. I mean, if people listen to our shows, they'll know exactly what we said about Tony Robbins and Gary V. You know what I'm saying? They know exactly. Yeah. They're in that same category of people, man. They're part of that 75 people on stage, and they're trying to get 75 other people on stage so they can be like, look at me. I literally just talk for a living.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's all I do. Is I sell tickets.
Yeah. I sell tickets. That's what they are, man. They're booking people. Like, you know what? These guys, I highly respect them, man, because they're really good at it. They're like the best at selling tickets. So to me, that's a good thing. But at the end of the day, if me personally, if you, I mean, he follows you on what is it called? On Instagram. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's good to say, oh, I have this guy who follows me. It's good to say this right here. It's good to say this person did this right here. It's good to say that. But me, what I want to be able to do is like, hey, I'm worth this amount of money. You know what I'm saying? Like, I made it this far. And what happens is, man, it's like, not saying that those guys are like that, but there's people out there who are like rodents coming out of a trash bag. And basically they are, as soon as they can see that somebody is getting some success, they're going to try to jump on that and we're like, oh yeah, I knew you then, and blah blah blah, and they're gonna try to put themselves a little bit higher. They're like, basically, you know, rest their male parts on the top of your forehead. You know what I'm saying? Just rest them on there, basically. And me personally, I'm just not that kind of person. I'm not gonna be that kind of way. Like, I'm cool with being like, man, admiring the person's success and the growth and how they, overcame adversity. But once again, man, I want to be told things that I can already know, like things I already know that I can do, that millions of people already say, and just because you say it in a way on TV or whatever it is,
Yeah.
I respect you, but I also respect myself a little bit more. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to be up on a stage looking like a monkey.
Right.
Because I have a cult following. Because there's going to be somebody out there that's going to just be a way more stronger version of what you are. And I feel like a lot of the times these guys in these kind of positions, they're afraid of that. They're afraid of that new person to come out there and really just like open the eyes of the people who are blinded by the glamour and the glitz. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just saying, like,
well, it's really easy to do that. Like,
yeah.
It's really easy to, because if you're in a position and you see somebody, doing something you're not, and you're kind of envious, I think that's pretty natural for a person to want that.
Yeah, but I feel like, is it more natural to want what somebody else have, or is it more natural to be the best at what you are?
Could be inspiring. Yeah. But I feel like that's a thought process that an individual person needs to develop on their own. I don't think it's necessarily a born trait. To me, maybe it can be quantified down to like a cognitive skill, or some type of skill that like babies learn. Because when I had my daughter, I had learned that there was like about 4 or 5 different skill sets. There's like dexterity, there's cognition, there's different things that like babies are experiencing that they need to grasp and learn each category to be able to, function, grow, be able to communicate with the environment around them.
Yeah. Because I feel like the real people out there with the real power, the real maneuverers are those guys who you don't hear about.
Mm-hmm.
The guys who are fixing the bugs on your iPhone update. Because those guys are like, that's the thing that Apple and all these big tech companies are having, and all this other kind of stuff. And I'm just thinking about it like this right here. Like, those guys are the ones that are going to they're the real threats.
Right. They are entrepreneurs because they're solving problems. Like, that's one thing we got to remind our listeners, right? Like, to be a TREP, you don't have to be a business owner. So you could think like a TREP and think like an entrepreneur just by somebody that's working on problems and you're solving those problems. So we hope that you understand that and you see it and you realize you have an ability that's unique to not many people can do that, because most people are going to focus on a problem and complain about it. Then they're going to spot that problem again. They're going to complain about it. And then they're going to spot it again. They're going to complain about it. Like, those are the people that don't push the world forward. They just make it a lot worse while we're here. So you want to be able to spot those problems and solve it. And you don't have to be a business owner at this time. Eventually, you could be working at a company like you said, Apple, where you've got all the resources around you and it's making you better and better. And then eventually one day you spot opening in the market, and it's not really
and that's Apple what we are
doing. So you jump out and you go start that business.
And those people are the ones that just rock it.
Yeah.
Those are the threats. And I know there's people out there, like, right now, they are watching us. They're watching where we're at, man. I'm telling you right now. Like, we're looking on here and we're talking about, man, our numbers are this and that and all the other stuff, but we have a lane, a unique one, and we just got to continue to stay in this lane, and we're gonna do that little twist to it. You know what I'm saying? That little bit of something that's gonna just catch fire, and people are gonna be like, "Whoa, who are those guys? Who the heck are they?" And I feel like the point that we went to, like, from owning your business into having a job and creating that seamless transition between, like, okay, if you're going to own a job, if you're going to do this right here, you're going to own a business, this is what you got to do. You got to understand delegation. If you're the kind of person that's like, okay, I just want to have a job, I want to be an entrepreneur, but I want to do it in a different way. I have a family, I have 2 kids or 3 kids, I got a mortgage, I got to work a regular job. I cannot dedicate my whole entire life into starting up from the bottom. I'm going to have to sell I'm going to have to exchange my labor for my goals.
I hope that if you do, that your other half will go there with you. Because to me, I found that, like, those are the ones that truly make it. Is you can't do it alone, so you really need the support of others to be able to do it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what is support? And I think that what you really have to do is focus on getting there and understand the difference. Are you a laborer or are you the master of your life? Yeah. I mean, and you can be a laborer and the master of your life, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with a person going and working for the waste management department. Nothing wrong with that. I don't think less of that person. I don't think worse of that person. You know, I don't think like, oh, this is this way or that way. And I also have no differentiation between a person who is a multi-billionaire and has, all the hot Italian, Russian, and Korean girls, whatever it is, that he can talk to. I have no difference between them. That person is just going to have passion. They're going to have passion for what they're doing, right? Like, the work they do and what's around them is driving them, is fueling them. You don't think that about a person who is working for something? You don't think that people benefit from working hard and that sense of accomplishment? I just believe the scale.
Like, even they do better because they're in that environment and it fuels them. Like, they're in an environment that they want to be in. They love what they do, so they're like really fueled and driven to push. Now, the ones that would push boundaries or want to create something different or spot something that's not available, so they go make it available. Those are I think, sort of traits of entrepreneurs.
Yeah. But I just really like that little discussion that we had about that globalization. I just want people to know that I'm not against it. I'm 100% for it. But I just want to give people that warning that if you decide to go in that direction, if you decide to go to the position where, your goal is to be globalized, don't forget about that example you used when you were at Thanksgiving and everybody was on their phone. Because that's a factor. People will be looking in front of them instead of around them. And you got to learn how to tackle that. I think that's a good lesson to learn from what you talked about, because
you're going to create a business where you take smartphones out of people's hands?
I think if there was a way to do such a thing, that would be the next level.
But then how are you going to do that without giving somebody something tangible?
Because I believe the thing that needs to happen is like on social media, man, it's like everybody's an avatar. How do you take that avatar and replicate that in a real world basis where people get that same dopamine fix of the likes and the comments and things like that?
Yeah.
So, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, you know, and I think to create those boundaries, you know what I just learned recently? It's a little off topic, but what you were talking about, we were talking about smartphones, and you're talking about trying to create that connection with people. A lot of the company Lyft was founded by a couple of college kids. One was going to UC Santa Barbara, and a new friend of his that he met online was somewhere else, and they started working on the idea for Lyft. So this is the story they tell. I don't know if they fabricated a little bit because they were known to come after Uber, but what they created it was to provide ride sharing to people locally, because they found like the transit authority had problems creating local transportation, because for every dollar that a transportation company charges, like riding a bus or something, so if they paid like $3, then it actually cost them $10. So they always had a problem with something like that. So like Lyft was trying to solve that problem with just using the vehicles people already owned, and people were going somewhere, so all they had to do was sell the seat, things like that. Then Uber did it like when they were trying to develop the black car service, because they wanted to provide, oh, how cool would that if I could just order a black car and all I had to do is push a button on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that. And those people were trying to solve different types of problems, but they're developing on problems that were within the same business. And both of them are a $1 billion company. And you look at like what the problems they've had is there's so much regulations and laws in that business that they've had to make sure that they follow those laws while trying to break them at the same time. Because the laws were set up in such a way to protect the businesses like taxi services and other ones that are already operating. But they're not thinking outside the box, and that's why like a taxi service is going to go out of business, because it's a model that they tried to just keep running forever without ever improving it. So the ones that continue to grow and stay relevant are the ones that continue to innovate. And that's what's so important for every trap listening to the show is focus on innovation for your product, for your solution to the market.
Yeah, man.
You really got to focus on innovation.
I think we had a really good show today, man. Today is one of those shows where I feel like we got some good, hard topics. We discussed and we touched, this whole, globalization kind of idea, and we really got on to, the show went a lot longer than we normally do. I feel like we really got caught up into the moment, and it was good, and I feel like if somebody was listening, if somebody was willing to learn, something good is going to happen to them, because we're focusing on growth and understanding how to get to the next level.
Yeah.
And I'm your co-host, that is Archibald.
And I'm your host, Gary-Dobbs.
Hey, we're out. Have a good, wonderful day. And happy Thanksgiving, belated.